Go ahead.
Yes, sir. First and foremost, God bless both of you guys. I'm a huge fan. My question is, whether it's a global war or some kind of economic collapse, we hear a lot about collecting gold and silver coins, so on and so forth, for use for barter, but how would that really be any use to another person that's, up a creek just like me or anybody else in that event? Wouldn't it be more useful in that case to stockpile things that people will need, like something that's made out of unobtainium, like 22 ammo nowadays, I'm sure you guys noticed, and maybe even just for comfort, like something along the lines of cigarettes. I don't smoke them, but maybe I should buy some, or little bottles of whiskey. What do you think about that?
Well, I think precisely that stockpiling things that remove your future need for money and provide barter items is really your best option. But remember, too, that cash will be king. I predict that there will not be hyperinflation before this war comes. They're going to continue to try to keep things down below 10%. Thus, you can hoard some cash. But believe me, there won't be any cash printing when war starts. And so cash will be king until it starts to run out, and then prices rise because of shortages. That's when gold and silver become more valuable, when prices rise, because right now you wouldn't be able to get change for a $2,000 gold coin. I like silver dollars as the premier barter coin, just because they're big and fat and heavy, and they're legal tender. People don't have to determine whether or not this is a real coin or not. I think if you're going to stockpile anything, silver dollars is going to be the best one, rather than quarters and dimes that are silver, because they look too much like what's out there existing. So silver dollars, cash will be king first of all, then silver dollars. But ultimately, in the long term of this war, and there's going to be starvation, there's going to be famine for a couple of years, you've got to be able to get out of those urban areas, and you're going to have stockpiles to use and to trade, especially things that are usable, like light bulbs, like glues, screws, ammunition, those
shortwave radios. And let's just say it, Joel, people will do anything for liquor once this all goes down. People could argue it'd be immoral, but the classic barter item would also be like things like whiskey.
Well, the so-called, the Bosnian guy who's promoting his wares about survival is talking about, cigarette lighters were key. Well, they aren't here in the United States. In Europe, people still smoke like chimneys, but not here. So it's not going to, smoking is not going to be a barter item like it is in Europe. Liquor may be, but I still think a lot of Americans will need food, and things to repair things quicker than they'll need liquor.
I was about to say, somebody that's got their own solar power and wind power and like a tinker repair machine shops, those will end up being little mini cities during a full collapse, right?
That's right. And the Bosnian guy claims, well, nobody used any cars, but that was Bosnia. Those were high-density urban areas. Out here in the West and things, fuel will be king as well, and you will be able to sell fuel like gold someday. So there's a lot of things that you can stockpile that are, I think, more useful ultimately than gold and silver.
Oh, absolutely. Fuel out in areas that aren't dense will be king. Brandon, does that answer your question?
Pretty much. I have maybe a little bit of a continuation of that question. Mr. Skousen mentioned that people should be getting out of urban areas, but wouldn't those be the most likely areas that the powers that be at the time would want to control? And as we've seen in places like Somalia and others, that those are the places where they delivered the food supplies, where the rural areas were pretty much left to their own devices.
Well, that's right, and that's why you want to be in the rural areas, so that they leave you alone, basically, and have your stockpiles. Remember, you can't grow in urban areas. You are totally dependent on FEMA.
We've got to go to break. Stay there. We'll be right back. Elite are buying redoubts. We talked about this 15 years ago, but it was even the London Guardian last week or 2 weeks ago that elites are buying places all over the world in rural areas and putting in long airstrips so they can run from Europe and the U.S. Most of the rich billionaires in Israel have left Israel the last 5 years. And we talked about this before it was known, because we have a lot of sources. I know Joel does, and I do as well, but he builds houses for really rich folks and common folks as well that are secure. So they've been running to the hills. They're not running into the cities. those are the places you won't want to be during a collapse. You want to elaborate on that, Joel, before we go to Judy?
Yeah, even the cities will not be able to be controlled by the powers that be. I mean, I don't even think policemen are going to show up for duty, soldiers aren't going to show up for duty, because their families will be subject to mobs. It's just going to be chaos. And so people will leave the cities. It's a matter of preparing places before that happens so that you're not caught in the maelstrom.
And know your neighbors. So if a group, 2 years into a collapse comes over there, it'll be just like Road Warrior wanting to take over. You're ready to deal with them. The good part about areas that have the Second Amendment, though, I predict those are going to be areas that are a lot safer. What about areas where they've disarmed people like California and D.C., that have cultures of just supine worshiping of tyranny? My God, those are going to be carnal, charnel houses of hellish exploits by the criminal element.
Absolutely. That's why in strategic relocation, we rate different areas differently, especially by these criteria like Second Amendment, like the freedom to homeschool, freedom for natural medical care, as well as climate and other things. A lot of good information in strategic relocation that people ought to get.
People should get the book and the film at InfoWarsStore.com. I mean, if people don't, I think they're insane. Both of them are so well done, and we're honored to work with you on that. That's what the whole illegal alien open invasion's about. I mean, Obama is acting as a dictator, but notice the Republicans aren't challenging him, Joel.
No, that's right. And there was a judge that had the guts to shut it down, and now the Obama administration is shopping for a judge to release that order so that the illegal agenda can keep going forward. But I think that's why the southern states have got a problem. Texas, even where you are, is going to be a Mexican state one of these days, again, I think.
Well, that's the globalist plan, to get folks to vote with the Democratic agenda. That's the plan.
That's right. They want to water down conservative voting patterns, and they're not going to stop this illegal flow no matter what we do. It's one of those things they don't take no for an answer.
Judy in Florida. Judy, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yes. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
In listening, I'm just really getting more and more concerned and frightened, really, about what is coming over our border, whether it's the illegal aliens or the Chinese that are coming here and having children. But all that aside...
well, it's because America's been totally sold out. I mean, we offer to pay for anybody's kids in the world, and this is the plan to turn us into a Tower of Babel. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I know people that are perfectly fine with that I thought were real intellectuals and people that I thought loved this country, but they're just brainwashed, crazy people. But what I don't understand is how this is not really like a currency war that's taking place, and I guess this is my question, is how is this not really a currency war? Because isn't the Anglo-American establishment just looking for the boogeyman that they can blame when the financial collapse does occur? I mean, they want World War III, don't they, in full swing? And also, what do you say to the people like me and my family that are not going to be able to get to some type of armored redoubt, and we're going to be stuck in mainland America, with all the suffering?
That's a good point. Joel?
Well, as I say, the currency wars are continue to go back and forth, but I'm going to tell you the dollar will remain king. There's no other currency in the world that can replace the dollar. The euro would have to be inflated.
Stay there. We're going to come back and finish up with that in Overdrive and go to Truth. Ben, Gregory, Aaron, and others. Stay with us. Joel Skousen is our guest. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Let's go to, who's been holding the longest here? Let's go to Ben in Missouri. You're on the air, Ben. Welcome.
Hey, great to talk to you again, Alex. And your guest, as always, is really informative. I wanted to say as well, I got another bottle of Super Male Vitality in the mail this past week after not having it for a few weeks. And, it's not like there was a problem before, but now there's not a problem. And then there's not a problem, and then there's not a problem. So that's
well, and again, it's not a drug. It's not herbs that hype you up or anything. It's just herbs that get your glands naturally going. All of our glands have been suppressed by the additives and all the garbage. The testosterone of a 50-year-old man is half of what it should be on average. Growth hormones are a lot lower than it should be. And it's just a fact that God's given us natural things of the earth that aren't drugs that have great results. So thank you. Super Male and Super Female Vitality are amazing. Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, well, anyway, like I was going to say, I actually live in a densely populated urban area. I'm in St. Louis City, in one of the safer areas of St. Louis City. My question for your guest is, what are the most important things to get before you need to bug out? So if the worst case scenario happens, and, you know, obviously you make your preparations as you can, but say you only have enough, you know, a truck bed to fill up, what are the things that he would recommend?
I think the most important thing, just to interrupt here, is to pick the right place you're going to go. And then to answer the other lady's question first, what do you do if you don't have money to get out of a major city, Joel?
Well, I agree with you, Alex. It's not a matter of what you can carry with you out, because you may have to walk out. That's why you've got to pick a place and have things stockpiled in advance somewhere, even if it's at a friend's house that's 30 miles out of the city. You want to stockpile fuel. You want to stockpile other things so that if you can get out, you know, and some people, you know, you can get cars, old cars, dime a dozen stockpiled at a friend's place, so that even if you have to walk away, then you can drive once you're out of the areas. But the key is get your stockpiles distributed out so that they're not stuck in the city when you try to leave.
All right, caller, I'm going to jump. Thank you so much for the kind words. We got 20% off on the Super Male and Female Vitality products. If you'll just try them, we could fund our whole operation if you try them. Almost everybody that buys keeps buying. So in the equation, we get enough people to buy it, we're going to be able to really expand this operation because it's that good. InfoWarsLife.com. Let's now go to Gregory in Illinois. You're on the air with Joel Skousen. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Alex. Hi, Joel. My question, I don't know, Joel, if you were the guest of Alex that predicted that the Ebola outbreak was a simulant, an Ebola simulant.
No, he's the one that said that. He thought it was a simulant and not really Ebola. And they were just using it as a pretext to learn how to take over in an emergency, which Obama later basically admitted. So they were dragging people away, but it was all just to see what we do. Basically, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't intended to become the major plague. They were trying to invent other strains that are more suitable for biological warfare, but they were prepping the areas, and we said the measles thing right now is prepping people for mandatory vaccines.
So it's just all PR brainwashing events. Because the doctors were seeing people disappeared. We had them on the show. But who knows what was going on? I mean, we just know there was a cover-up. Anything else, Gregory?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it really was a stimulant. Because I kind of, the story just kind of disappeared. And I thought maybe the virus or whatever it was mutated faster than they thought it would.
Well, they aren't telling us whether or not able to harvest mutated forms. I'm sure they were trying. They were taking blood samples over everything. But it is dying now. The virus is dying out. Most of those areas covered.
And praise God for that. The scary thing is that AP reported in New Jersey they have a secret Ebola center that locals weren't told about. So we know they use it as a pretext to test medical tyranny, disappearing people, just like with measles and the 4 shots. WorldAffairsBrief.com. That's Joel Skousen's site. Get his book and film at InfoWarsStore.com and support the broadcast. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Alex.